Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to be talking about percents. Alright, in the last video we talked about ratios and proportions. Next is percents, because a percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. Alright, so 79%, if I wanted to write that as a fraction, it would be 79 out of 100. Alright, now how do we convert a decimal to a percent? All right, well, we multiply by 100 and add a percent sign. So the kind of trick to that is you just move the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay, so 0.2 is a percent, 0.2, and then I would move the decimal place 2 places to the right. So this would be 20%. Okay, I could also take 0.2 times 100. But knowing that if I multiply it by 100, the decimal place moves 2 to the right. All right, what about 3/8? If I wanted to write 3/8 as a percent. Well, first I'm going to use my calculator and convert that fraction into a decimal. Now that it's a decimal, I can move my decimal 2 places to the right. So this would be 37.5%. Okay. What if we wanted to go the other way? What if we wanted to convert a percent to a decimal? Well, instead of multiplying by 100, we would divide by 100. And the trick to that is we can move the decimal place 2 places to the left. All right, so we're dividing, so it's going to the left. So 28%, the decimal place is currently right here. So if I move that 2 places to the left, I'd be looking at 0.28. Okay, what about 1.24% as a decimal? So 1.24%, the decimal is where it's at, and I'm going to move it 2 places to the right. So this is going to be a point and 0 there. So 0.0124. That is going to be the decimal for 1.24%. Okay, so if I'm converting a decimal to a percentage, 2 places to the right. If I'm converting a percentage to a decimal, 2 places to the left. All right, and so there's such a thing as a percent proportion, which we can use to solve some problems. All right, the percent proportion, your percentage is always going to be out of 100. And that's going to equal is, which is the part, over of, which is the whole. All right, so what does that mean? So what type of percent problems could we be dealing with? Well, we could find the percent. All right, so for example, what percent of 252 is 84? Okay, so percent we don't know, so the proportion would be x out of 100. We don't know the part out of 100. But that's going to equal the is over the of. So we have is 84 over the of, which is 252. Okay, so that is the proportion we can set up. Another way to think about that, though, is think about it like a test. So if a test had 252 points and you got an 84 on it, you would just take 84 divided by 252, which is 0.3 repeating. And then you would just move the decimal place 2 places to the right because you want a percentage, so that would be 33%. Okay, so I'm going to show you both the proportion setup, but also just the more conventional way to solve these. Okay, so what about if we wanted to find part of the base? So for example, what number is 30% of 90? So we see the 30%, so that's going to be out of 100. We're trying to find what number is, so we don't know part of the base. We don't know our is, but we know the of is 90. Okay, so we could cross multiply and solve that. But the more typical way that we're going to solve this is translate this into an equation. So what number, so we don't know what the number is, so that's our equals, 30% of, which is multiplication, 90. So x equals 30%, so we're going to write that as a decimal, 0.3, times 90. Okay? So x equals 0.3 times 90. We want to translate these into an equation. Okay? And then the next one, what if we wanted to find the base? So we have 16 is 20% of what number? If I set this up using a proportion, I've got 20 over 100, percent out of 100, equals the is, which is 16, over the of, which we don't know. We don't know what the whole number is, so that's x. Okay, but if I wanted to translate this, so I have 16 is, so 16 equals 20% of what number? So that'd be 0.2 times x. Okay? So we convert our percents to decimals, and then we set up a mathematical equation that way. All right? So I wanted to show you that it's really the same thing. If you set up a proportion cross multiply, or if you set up the linear equation, both are going to be the same way to get the same answer. It's just we're not going to want to set up a proportion for each of these problems. Okay, so we're going to kind of skip a step, not set up the proportion, and go straight to the one-line equation. Okay, so what does this look like in some problems? 40% of 30 is what number? So if I wanted to set this up, I'm going to translate 40% into a decimal. Of, that's my multiplication, of 30 equals is what number? We don't know. Okay, so I'm just going to take 0.4 times 30, and that's going to be 12. Okay, so 12 equals x. My number is equal to x. All right, that's the same thing if I set up my proportion. 40 over 100 equals x over 30. Then if I cross multiply it, I get 1200 equals 100x. Divide both sides by 100, I get x to equal 12. You're going to get the same answer if you do the proportion, but when you're shopping per se and you have a percent discount, you're not going to want to have to do the work to set up a proportion and cross multiply. So that's why you just want to translate what the problem is into an equation. All right? What about the next one? We've got 67.5 is 75% of what number? So we have this 67.5 equals 75%, so 0.75, of what number? So 0.75 times x. All right? So then, what's happening to our x is being multiplied by 0.75, so I'm going to divide both sides by 0.75. Use my calculator, and I'm going to get x to equal 90. Okay, so 75% of 90 is 67.5. Okay? So that is how you set up these percent problems. You're literally just translating those words into an equation. Okay? Of multiplication is your equal sign. Okay? In the next video, we'll talk about application problems, but hopefully you can see, and I can show you even in this last one, that if I set up a proportion and I cross multiplied, I would get the same exact answer. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions. Make sure to watch the next video, which will cover our application problems.